For example, I've seen you on TV a lot in the last couple of years. I know everything you know or that you tell us about the Russian situation. I don't have a clue what you think about healthcare. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're for Medicare for all or improve Obamacare or get a chicken. I don't know what.
How do we help you get this done? Not how do we put more obstacles in the way? I haven't forgotten about your roof. All of that is important to keeping.
And my pot store.
And right.
And the pot store, the Woods that I own with Woody Harrelson. It's just the biggest problem we had was the government of California.
Bill Maher and Adam Schiff have clashed before, and their confrontations are anything but polite. Schiff, now a United States Senator, represents the kind of hardline progressive politics that Maher openly challenges. And if you know Bill Maher, you know he never lets that kind of rhetoric slide. Whenever these two appear on the same stage, sparks are inevitable and the tension is impossible to ignore. So buckle up and dive straight into the showdown.
Statement from the administration. The president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama about Libya.
At one point, Bill Maher brilliantly set a trap for Adam Schiff. Maher read a statement about sending troops to Libya and asked Schiff whether the wording sounded vague and weak. Schiff confidently agreed that it was vague, without realizing those words didn't come from Donald Trump at all. They came from Barack Obama. The moment Maher revealed the truth, the trap snapped shut. The shock on Schiff's face was unmistakable. In one swift move, Maher exposed what many saw as a glaring double standard, leaving Schiff scrambling while the audience instantly understood what had just happened.
If film and TV productions continue to move out of California due to tax incentives in other states, what might the future look for Los Angeles? Is there a risk of it becoming the next Detroit? Well,
but I don't agree with the diagnosis of why the film industry is leaving. They're leaving because they're getting richer incentives in other states and in other countries. And we haven't kept pace with that. So if you want to film in the United Kingdom, you're going to get a tremendous tax break, and our motion picture industry has left the country. If you want to film in New York or Georgia, there are generous tax incentives. If we want to keep the industry here, we're going to have to compete with tax incentives. California has started to do that.
The entertainment industry isn't leaving California for fun. It's escaping crushing taxes and rising costs. Producers, directors, and studio executives have been complaining about it for years. The problem isn't mysterious. Yes, places like Georgia and the United Kingdom offer attractive incentives, but the deeper issue is simple. Filming in California has become outrageously expensive. In fact, it has become so costly that shooting a movie in Europe suddenly looks like a bargain.
Every year, California loses people because they are being driven away by a high-tax, high-regulation state where public services don't reach the standards that they should. That should be a signal that we shouldn't have one favored industry or another. We should have a favored state. California should be competitive.
Before Bill Maher even stepped in, the issue of California's economic climate was already under fire. Critics have pointed out for years that the state has been losing businesses and residents because of sky-high taxes and suffocating regulations. Even Maher himself has repeatedly criticized this level of overregulation. So it raises a serious question. Why did Adam Schiff try to frame the issue in a way that ignored those realities?
I've forgotten about your roof. All of that is important to keeping.
And my pot store.
And right.
And the pot store, the Woods that I own with Woody Harrelson. It's just the biggest problem we had was the government of California.
I imagine your producers are saying, "Oh God, I can't believe Schiff brought up his roof."
Yeah, I mean, we love it here. We want to live here. The West Coast has the sunshine and the girls all get so tanned. I don't know how I can, but we just gotta make it friendlier. All right.
California desperately needs to become friendlier to businesses and residents again. And that responsibility starts with leaders like Gavin Newsom and political allies such as Adam Schiff. For years, ordinary people have watched living costs skyrocket while state leadership insists everything is fine. But the facts tell a different story. Housing prices have exploded to levels many families simply cannot afford. Taxes remain among the highest in the country, placing enormous pressure on homeowners, workers, and entrepreneurs. On top of that, a massive web of regulations makes it painfully difficult to build, expand, or even run a business efficiently. When you combine unaffordable housing, heavy taxes, and suffocating bureaucracy, it's no surprise that companies and residents start looking for the exits. If California wants to keep its talent, its industries, and its reputation as an economic powerhouse, serious reform is unavoidable.
Panel agree with the UK's proposal to impose a social media curfew for kids. How realistic is it to enforce? Been here one night suggesting I was going to open a place called Bill Maher's Catholic School. Let me finish. Because Catholic schools are popular now, even with people who aren't Catholic. It's the last place you can send your kid to get an old school education. And they just tell the kids, forget about the Jesus stuff. Just, to them, that's okay indoctrination, as opposed to some of the other indoctrination that goes on. And also, the Catholics don't put up with bullshit. They take your phone. You have to learn your P's and Q's and your grammar and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I just don't understand, that parents don't have the whip hand anymore. Not that you should actually use a whip.
Ironically, it was liberal policymakers and education reform advocates who once pushed hard for phones and constant digital access in classrooms, promising that technology would revolutionize education. Instead, many classrooms turned into distraction zones where attention spans collapsed and real learning took a backseat. Now the consequences are impossible to ignore. That's why Bill Maher raises a direct question. Should the United States follow the example of the United Kingdom and ban children from social media until they reach a certain age?
Every movie and TV show that has a teenager in it cannot be mischaracterizing this. And the kids they don't listen to their parents, they turn their back on them, they walk out of the room, things that would just get me shut down when I was a kid. And I think it starts with the phone.
It sounds like a simple question, but it carries serious implications. As Bill Maher presses the issue, Adam Schiff appears increasingly uncomfortable. Maher doesn't hold back. He fires off blunt observations about discipline, focus, and what real education should look like. In his view, schools are meant for learning, not endless scrolling and digital distractions. And according to Maher, the current system has clearly lost its way. Cool 8. Before the elections, Adam Schiff was completely convinced that the Democrats were heading toward victory. But Bill Maher calmly dismantled that confidence. On stage, he methodically poked holes in that optimism and exposed the cracks in the narrative for everyone watching.
The reason why Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump is because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself.
In a twist that felt almost prophetic, Bill Maher's warning ended up proving accurate. While many voices on the left were confidently predicting victory, Maher took a far more grounded view of the political climate. He warned that frustration was quietly building among ordinary voters, and ignoring it would come at a price. In the end, that frustration translated into strong support for Donald Trump at the ballot box. Maher's argument was simple. Many Americans were exhausted by what they saw as political excess and ideological rigidity. Voters felt that common sense was being pushed aside by culture wars and endless partisan talking points. Whether people agree with Maher or not, his message was clear. When voters feel dismissed or ignored, they eventually respond in the voting booth.
I put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Right. And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA and just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by sex makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And if you think it doesn't, you can't leave the country.
But that's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Okay. I'm just giving you the answer to the question you're asking all night long. Why do they vote for Donald Trump? It's not always because they like him. No. It's because stuff like that is kookier.
At one point, Bill Maher asked Adam Schiff a brutally simple question. What exactly is your message? Instead of answering directly, Schiff did what politicians often do. He dodged it. The question wasn't complicated. But Schiff suddenly seemed completely lost trying to respond. Rather than presenting a clear vision, the answer drifted into the usual political talking points. Maher's point was powerful. Constantly criticizing Donald Trump might energize a political base, but criticism alone doesn't create a compelling agenda. Voters eventually want something more concrete. Clear policies, a real direction for the country, and a convincing reason why that vision is better than the alternative.
I'm on TV a lot in the last couple of years. I know everything you know, or that you tell us, about the Russian situation. I don't have a clue what you think about healthcare. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're for Medicare for all, or improve Obamacare, or get a chicken. I don't know what.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know what.
Here's what I was telling my colleagues, and particularly these wonderful candidates we had running in the midterms. Don't talk about Russia. You're not going to persuade people to vote Democrat or Republican based on Russia.
But what about Trump?
Now, I get asked about it because, our investigation for the last 2 years was the only investigation into what Russia did.
Right.
And people ask me about it. But what I urge the candidates and what I urge our nominees to talk about is, how are you going to help American people put bread on the table?
Later, Bill Maher turned his attention to another trend gaining traction within the Democratic Party: the growing enthusiasm for socialist-leaning policies. Maher openly questioned the strategy. Why would liberals embrace socialism so eagerly when they know it could trigger backlash from moderate voters, independents, and even members of their own base? His critique wasn't about dismissing ideas outright. It was about political reality. Maher argued that rushing toward labels and policies that alarm swing voters could weaken the party's economic credibility and alienate key supporters.
Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who before the 24 election said things like, if the party didn't shift to the center, we will get fucking torn apart. We need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Well, she was right, but they didn't listen. At least the party has a clear choice here. One wing is saying, don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
Throughout this intense political clash, Bill Maher repeatedly highlighted what he sees as contradictions and strategic mistakes by prominent Democrats like Adam Schiff. From exposing double standards to questioning California's tax-driven exodus, Maher pushed leaders to confront uncomfortable truths. He challenged comparisons between Donald Trump and Barack Obama, criticized social media policies affecting children, and questioned the Democratic Party's flirtation with socialism. Schiff's visible discomfort, evasive answers, and preference for friendly media platforms only reinforce Maher's argument that too many politicians operate inside a comfort zone where tough questions rarely appear. Maher's style is fiery but grounded in blunt realism. His message is simple. Voters are tired of ideological extremes, vague messaging, and politicians dodging hard questions. And that frustration is shaping the political landscape more than many leaders are willing to admit.
how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won. In districts, Trump also won. All moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message: move to the center. Even the New York Times, which did so much to promote woke politics, now says the partisans are wrong. Moving to the center is the way to win. Democrats should recognize the party moved too far left on social issues after Obama left office.